When Mark Colbourne was left disabled after a paragliding accident, his life changed completely. His road to recovery was long, and amazingly, he was encouraged to take up cycling. Once his goal was simply to walk. Now he's bidding to stand on the Paralympic podium.
You know, it changes your life, you know, 100%. Going from an able-bodied, active, you know, individual to literally waking up 6 months later when I left Rookwood Hospital, to then having to start a new life all over again, dealing with this disability. And the psychological trauma in the very beginning is that you're very apprehensive because you don't know what the next day is going to bring. As soon as I started the process, you know, of accepting my disability, then I could focus on what I really wanted to achieve, which was obviously being where I am today. And as soon as I knew that my quadriceps worked, it was just a case of developing them to back to where they were 18 months previous, to the strength, the speed, losing my muscle weight, and almost then regaining my triathlon, you know, fitness.
Since the accident, Mark has always had the support of his family, in particular his mum and dad. But in February, he faced another massive challenge as he prepared for the final push to London. His father was suffering from cancer, and he passed away.
Christmas time was very tough. You know, when I went back home Christmas time, and my dad unfortunately has stomach cancer, and we didn't know, you know, how long he actually had left. So when I made the decision then, you know, in February, to go to Los Angeles and perform, because that's what my dad wanted. My dad's last words to me was, you know, go, win gold, and be proud.
The man who'll decide Mark's fate is Gareth Shepherd, a fellow Welshman and performance director of GB Paracycling.
It's very tough, but I think that, he said, we've got a fantastic psychiatrist that works with the squad, Steve Peters, and one of his real kind of like sayings has been kind of like logic and not emotion. And by that, he just means by looking at the numbers, looking at the performances and being able to judge each athlete based on actually what they've been able to do. And ultimately, that's what we've got to go away and do, is as much as we might, you know, like an athlete or have ties with an athlete as a coach or as a manager, it's actually being able to take that element away from it and then be able to sit back and say, right, let's look at these numbers, let's look at this athlete's physiology, their track record of results, and then from that make, you know, very logical decisions about who's going to be able to go out there and really perform in London.
With him having 2 weeks off the bike, it's not the bike fitness, it's his muscular fitness which has suffered.
Yeah.
You can only give 100%. 101% doesn't exist, unfortunately. So yes, at that time, you know, for selection, then the whole team will be, you know, peaking at the right moment.
It's always going to be a very difficult process, but ultimately we've done our job well if it is a difficult process, because obviously the athletes have then performed at a level as such that they all warrant selection, and that's a great place to be at because it shows the strength and the competition levels on the squad. So, you know, I think you could pat the coaches and the athletes on the back and say, job well done, because we're sitting there with some real selection headaches.
It's exciting, you know, I've got goosebumps thinking about it at the moment because we're 2 weeks away now from selection. So I think it's going to be a very exciting time for the whole team, you know, not only to have the opportunity to go to the biggest sporting event on the planet, but actually have it in your backyard. Gareth's words to me last year when when they gave me the opportunity to become part of the Paralympic Academy was that the next 12 months was going to be a very steep learning curve.
We'd love to take everybody, you know. We're really, really lucky to have a squad of athletes where each single one would be able to go and win a medal at the Paralympic Games. But unfortunately, some of those people are going to miss out. We just don't have the slots available for them to be able to go and compete.
But of course, the hard work doesn't end there. For the selected riders, it's straight back to work. First stop, a pre-games training camp in Newport.
I think the few days leading up to the selection date, by Paralympics GB, myself and certainly the other riders were, very nervous, which is naturally, a human sort of behaviour. I think for me, I'm just absolutely delighted. Even though I felt I was getting stronger and faster, you still need to see, your name in an email, before you suddenly think, yep, the penny's dropped, and finally here, all the apprehension and nervousness then, goes away.
Deciding who went was up to performance director Gareth Shepherd, another Welshman in the squad. It wasn't easy.
We were in a challenging position where we'd had 21 athletes that had medalled at World Championships levels over the last 18 months prior to selection. So that meant that obviously someone was going to have to miss the cut who could potentially go on and win a medal in London. We've got a very level-headed group of athletes, and they've known from day one what the selection criteria was going to be, and they've known that obviously there's going to be a lot of competition. So I think those athletes that are on the cusp knew that it could go one of two ways, and obviously they're sitting there hopefully thinking they're going to come down on the right side of the line, but in some cases that hasn't been able to be the case.
Mark, though, did make the cut, meaning his place in London is guaranteed. Training is going well and hopes for success are high.
If you look at where I am now compared to where I was in January, going into the World Track Championships, I'm obviously above, my expectations of where I was then. So I think the next 6-7 weeks, before we start to taper, into the holding camp and then into the village, having been there once before, I'm not so scared now.
Mark's looking in great shape, great shape. I don't want to put the I suppose the commentator's curse on him at all, but no, he's really developing well. He's put all the the training in. They said he's got this big block of training now over the next 4 to 5 weeks. Then he'll enter into a taper, and I'm sure he's going to be in fantastic shape for the games.
The next 6 weeks of doing double sessions every day, working in the gym every week, and having confidence in my coach, Tom Stanton, who's doing a fantastic job mentoring me, on and off the track. I can now put my faith in Tom and wait till probably about maybe a week, before we get to the village, where you're almost in a state of total exhaustion, but then you just let the body do what it does best, to rest and recover, and then when you taper, to come out the other end, for the 30th and 31st of August, which is my first 2 events on the track, to then literally be in, the best shape I can possibly be in.
I think that's what it's going to take. You're looking in London, it's a home Olympic Games. You've seen the sport really develop over the last 4 to 5 years, and yeah, it's going to take some incredibly strong performances to be able to return gold medals, and in a lot of cases that will be world record times. So that's the benchmark you've got to aim for.
You strive for these dreams, literally every day, and you keep pushing in training, and you always have the apprehension of thinking, well, have I done enough? So I've just given it everything. I really have.
It's all ticking along at this point in time very nicely. So providing we can keep him fit and healthy, I think he's going to have a very good shot at being able to be up there.